So, Kickstarter this week. It's going to be a big week. It's going to be a lot of stuff launching, a lot of big projects in the next 2 weeks, a lot of small projects. The January wave is upon us. So, if you're backing stuff, if you're interested, let's go. Let's do a quick roundup. At least a couple of these games are going to be getting full versions of videos from me. So, take that as you will. So, if you don't hear as much right now, that's why. But let's take a look at what is launching, what is new, what needs to be on your radar this week, or what should be on your radar, or just things that weren't on your radar that can be now. Let's go. As always, if you like any of this stuff, I'm trying to get bigger. I'm trying to get more promotion. I'm trying to get more people to take notice of me outside of the bubble of backers and publishers and just people throwing their games out there. So throw me a subscription. That would be the biggest thing that you could do. I hate doing this, but 2021 and 2021. So help me achieve my goal. Thank you. On to the show. So, Tinter's Trail. Now, this is a Martin Wallace remake expanded edition. This is a Euro game back from 2008. That sounds like a long time ago, and it was 13 years ago. But it's got a relatively good, solid footing from a Euro worker placement style game. It's already well over 2 times its funding goal, working on 3 times its funding goal at the time of this recording. It's by Alley Cat Games, and it already has the Dice Tower seal of approval, so you know, like I said, it's got a firm foundation in which it's based off of. What they've done with this campaign is that they have remastered it, they've changed some rules, and if you're going for the complex or the deluxe edition, you're getting 2 small expansions that are going to come with it that are going to add different elements to the gameplay. Now, if you're not familiar with this game, basically what you're doing is you're trying to exploit the most out of your mines by buying mines, digging out ore, and selling the ore for a profit in a better way than your competitors. The 2 expansions add your ability to send your workers overseas to get passive bonuses throughout the game, and then also by adding an additional element, arsenic, as opposed to just the copper and the tin that are present in just the base game. What they've done is they've gotten rid of the dice rolling to allocate certain portions on the map, and they have now added variable tiles that are going to change during each setup at the beginning of the game to offer replayability in a different way. The base game is 34 euros, 44 US dollars. The expanded edition is 59 US dollars before shipping. You're getting both of those expansions that I mentioned in this, and you're also getting whatever they unlock from a stretch goal content. Comparatively to some of the other Euros that have launched lately, this is actually significantly less, which sounds weird to say as an expanded edition. Deluxeification, if you will. That's the term they're using here instead of it. Why is this interesting? Because this does it a little bit different way. This has auctions, this has dual use cards, and this has a time track. Now, what they mean by a time track is if you think of a rondel, essentially, that's the sort of mechanism they take. So here is an animation that they talk about in terms of using that action track. Now, like the rondel, the person that is furthest in the back gets to make the next move. And so you have actions that vary from 1 to 2 to 3 spaces on your turn. And so you can have someone that will take multiple turns in a row if other people are consecutively taking the 2 or 3 action spaces each time. Now, why does that matter? Because, well, at the end of the track, you have to pass, and then the other people that are left get to take consecutive turns. And you go, well, that seems a little weird. Why would you want to do that? Well, then they tie that into one of the later mechanisms of the game. I'll scroll back up here so you can see it. Of this investment track, meaning the first one that finishes all of their actions gets higher placed on this investment track. The investment track takes the prices in which you sell the copper and tin that you were mining for, because you have to bid to build the mines. So this is how things are all tying together. When you sell them, then you can sell in only increments of 5 or 10 points on the victory track. So you do not have to sell or cash in your points on any round. You can save them up between rounds. And so if you're trying to get higher up on the investment track to be able to get more points for your pounds, you may want to wait a round or two or spend your actions quicker. But there are only limited spaces on the map that you can get to do certain actions each round, so you may want to do that on a certain round or you may not want to. And so this is going to affect, again, your end game victory points based on what happens with these prices. And these prices, as you can see on the picture, are done in a very unique way. It's done on the sum of the 3 dice rolls, gets you what that value of the copper or the tin is for that round. And if it's at the highest or lowest in a round, they help you mitigate so that it's not going to be at that same position in the following round. All in all, I think my general recommendation with worker placements is you go with the deluxe version because you're going to get things and they're going to hold their value at retail if the game is solid. You already know that this game is solid as based on the fact that it's already been out. It's a redo version of this game, not a brand new one. And I think that's why you're already seeing it get 50,000, which is not a lot, but it's also significant for, essentially a day one backing with a lower-ish price point in general. So that is Tinner's Trail. Next up is a very interesting take, and this one just funded, actually. It's a solo card game called The Road. And this is a very interesting concept because it's a solo game. There is a very high interest for solo niche type games nowadays. You see it often requested on a lot of the Euro worker placement style games and slowly being incorporated into other games. You also see plenty of cooperative games that people will play multi-handed. So this one, it takes a different spin on the survival mechanism. And it's got multiple elements, but having watched the playthrough, it's relatively intuitive because he does a very good job of incorporating symbology that is very easily interpreted, that is very easily accessible, and that joins together in a very straightforward and streamlined manner. I feel like, I don't know this, but I think there was that movie out, a decade or so ago, wow, dating myself here at least, of The Road, where you have the guy walking across the road in the post-apocalyptic manner, trying to survive, trying to make it to his destination. And this is exactly the concept that they're going for with this game. It's very, very straightforward in how it plays. And I like the fact that they say you can play multiplayer, but it's likely going to be just a cooperative decision making because there's not really, multi-handed elements to this game. Now, there are limited backer spots, but realistically, after about 12 hours, they've only filled up less than 200 of the English edition and just under 700 of the French edition. So especially if you're English speaking and reading, I don't think you're going to have a problem getting this. This isn't exactly an early bird, but I think it's just due to the fact that this is a smaller publisher and they don't want to be overwhelmed with quantities that they can't manage and provide a good enough product when they say they're going to provide it. So I like it from that aspect. They're not trying to go beyond their means in that way. You can see all right here, these are the 5 main symbols that they use in the game. And once you start watching the playthrough or start playing it, it talks about the setup being 30 seconds, and I totally believe that, because a lot of the decks don't even require shuffling. Whether it's worth the $39 price plus shipping, I don't know about that, but if you're a solo backer, this looks very solid and this looks very smooth because each game is going to be quite different in terms of what you may see or what you may not see based on the individual decks. So all in all, if you're a solo player, I would definitely take a look at this very quick, very straightforward, very easy how to play video on their page. It's about 13 minutes and it's worth looking at because it shows you exactly all of the gameplay elements that you may be interested in. That being said, the designer or whoever is narrating this how to play video definitely lets you know that this is not necessarily an easy game. You'll have a very good understanding after you watch this video, even on like 1.5 speed, of what it is, what it isn't, and whether or not it's going to appeal to you. So next up we have Alba, which is an open world adventure type book. Basically, I think the concept is a choose your own adventure on massive amounts of steroids, because they say it's something like 1,200 pages. And as you can see, the scope has really enticed people as they are already 5 times their funding goal, essentially, at this point. You are in a post-apocalyptic world and you're trying to figure out where to go and what to do. 36 chapters, non-linear, 1,200 pages. I think they say something like 19 different possible endings. So the replayability there is quite good as opposed to your smaller choose your adventure books that we're usually used to seeing. And it's not just a book. There are a lot of other components that are going along with this. So you're having ways of keeping track, you're having ways of recording things, mapping things out. So it's not just a read the page, go to page 36, read the page, go to page 67. Again, it's going to be more of a solo game. So again, the solo niche is really going strong already in January. And if you're a solo fan, you should be really excited by the stuff that's getting out there that's new and different that we haven't really seen before. You're going to get items, you're going to have encounters, you're going to have traits, you're going to have a narrative. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You can get it as an ebook, you can get it as a paperback, you can get it as a hardback. So there's a lot of different options depending on how much money you want to spend and how much a physical component matters to you. So I'm sorry here. It actually says 7 different endings and chapters and locations, and then additional endings and locations as well with a deluxe map. So definitely more than you're going to need, more than enough to give you some variety. The price point for the ebook is, under 12 euros. The paperback itself is 12 euros. The special edition hardback is 30. And if this thing is as big as it says, 30 euros is not terribly obscene for a game, all the components you're getting, because you're going to pay $20 or $30 for a new hardback, novel if you go to the local bookstore anyway. So it's a relatively good price. This is definitely not a product that I have any interest in, but it's new, it's creative, it's innovative, and I always like seeing that out there because eventually then you see this spread out into the community and people take parts of it that work and can incorporate it into their game as well. So I'm always a big fan. Again, it's already well funded. Check it out if you're, again, big into the solo side of things. So here is the game that I am backing. You can tell already I am backing the current all-in level. I doubt it's going to stay that way. All-in gameplay, at least right now, and that is Epic 7 Arise. I already featured that on one of the other videos from a week or two ago. It's more of your anime style, mobile platform type game based on that. It's by a first-time creator, so that's a little bit of a scary thing, I won't lie, especially considering they've got miniatures, but it's already at 142,000, so it's already 3 times its funding goal. They didn't do, I don't think they did an artificially low funding goal. I don't think that's what the 50,000 was. I just don't think they knew what sort of reception that they were going to get. And so far it's been very positive. And if you are interested, definitely get in now. They've said if they get 2,000 backers in the first 48 hours, they're going to include this little mini expansion with a new miniature and a new character. They give a lot more info on the core pledge and the base pledges, as well as what's in them and how it plays on the page than what was out there previously, which obviously is a good thing. $95 for the core pledge, $120 for the core pledge plus the expansion. The expansion they're saying is an additional $40, so you're saving additionally $15. I like everything I've seen. Check out the playthrough videos. Again, it's got chapters, it's got scenarios, it's got a little bit of individual play. The mechanics are different. This is sort of what I was expecting with Bardsong, something that is a twist on the tropes that are out there, and Bardsong didn't do it for me in that sense, but this has. I am a big fan of the anime style to begin with, so I am a sucker for this. Now, I'm going to see it, and hopefully they're going to have more gameplay. That is the one thing that's lacking, is the actual gameplay video, and I was hoping that they would have someone big do a gameplay video on the day of launch. And they said in the comment section already they're going to try and have something up sometime in the campaign, but it makes me think that it's going to be an internal gameplay as opposed to an external, which, I'm always happy to raise my hand and say, hey guys, I'd love to do this. I put out a video or two already mentioning your product and I'm doing it for free. So maybe at some point someone will take me up on that. But here you go. Here is the exclusive that you're getting, whoever this Ludwig guy is, sitting on a throne with some standees. Additionally, they offer acrylic standees as an add-on down here lower on the page, but I'm kind of interested. I don't know why they wouldn't include a standee only pledge. So either way, it's a relatively good price, especially because I think they're going to hit a lot of stretch goals. And apparently this is why they're getting a lot of other people too. Maybe this is the reason why it's funded so well, is their mobile game is getting a coupon. So take that for what you will. But people are apparently interested, and the miniatures actually look really, really good. I'm really surprised at how good some of these miniatures look. You're getting 8 hero character cards. They've already unlocked another one. You're getting cardboard tokens. So, I wish they were acrylic in the base game instead, but you're getting both, so I can't really argue. The art I really love. Some people aren't going to like it. Here's the expansion. It's probably not a terribly great value for $40, but for $25 is what you're getting. I'm very interested. They're going to be doing daily unlocks as well as stretch goals, and the stretch goals are really seeming to be stretch goals because they're actually doing the unlocks as sort of your character stuff, and they're doing more of the stretch goals as component upgrades. So that's nice to see. I mean, there's some other stuff, but they've already blown through all of day one's stretch goals. Like I said, I don't think they were expecting it to triple fund in less than 12 hours. So we'll see. Dice Tower, acrylics, like I mentioned, a little bit of rules, but nothing really talking about it. Although there is a rule book, which I'm probably going to take a look at tonight. So when I give you a full video on this over the weekend or in the beginning of next week, I can talk a little bit more specifically about concerns or positives and comparisons to other games that are out there. But overall, right now, I'm in. So I'm going to ride this to the end and see where it goes. Check it out if you like this sort of thing, because I think it's going to be a unique twist. It's just a first-time creator, though, so you got to beware of that side of things. Next up is Call of Madness. And this is a little bit of a take from Jaka Games. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering it. I'm a little surprised this isn't a little bit higher funding, but I think it deserves the attention because, again, even though it is taking the same trope of the Cthulhu and the Elder Gods and the summoning of them, they're doing two very unique things, but I think that's a hindrance as well as a help in this scenario. Again, I think the problem being that they've not done enough yet necessarily to stand out, and they're not hyping the differences of this game necessarily as much as you may want to do to proclaim yourself different from the Eldritch Horrors and all the other Arkham iterations. This game is completely different. This game is a tower defense game, but it again takes a twist on the tower defense aspect and makes it a PvP tower defense and a game of attrition, because it's the first one that is out of their cultists causes the game to end, and then you score and you count how many cultists you have, because what you're doing is you are cultists individually trying to summon your own god, and the person who is not the most successful in that sense, but the person who is not out first is going to have the best chance of winning. And you are going to be battling investigators that you are essentially going to be using the investigators in a gameplay manner to attack the other people's outposts or cult headquarters in order to sabotage their efforts and to mitigate their resources so that they are left having to battle the investigators more so that you can concentrate on summoning your Elder One. I think there's like something like 4 or 5 characters here, 5 gods that you're going to start off, a lot of tiles and tokens as are going to come with this, but it's a different style of game. I haven't really seen anything like it, which is why I was hoping that we'd see a little bit more investment, but I'm not sure that element has really been marketed as much as I would have liked, and I think that's why it's sort of flying under the radar. Will it fund? It probably will. Does it look like a solid game? It does. The rule book is relatively short. It's like 6 pages or less. And so there's a lot of game packed in there. But I think the other thing that you have to know going into this game is that there's a lot of take that. There is a lot of take that because this is a PvP tower defense game. And so if you know tower defense games in the first place, adding in the PvP aspect versus the player versus environment aspect is a completely different spin and take on things. And so people may be a little bit turned off on that if that is not their forte, or if just take that is not your forte, you are not going to like this game. I have no qualms after looking at the rules. If you don't like take that, there's going to be a lot of meanness in this game of using your abilities to attack other people's headquarters in that sense. Pledge levels are going to be what they're going to be, 55 euros, $67. That's relatively expensive for what it is, considering what you're getting with it, and there aren't miniatures. I'm interested to see where this one goes, because it has the hallmarks of a game that could be really potentially good, but it's definitely a niche game. So I think it'll probably fund. I want to see how it goes. It's going over a shorter campaign of only 14 days, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to follow this one. It's going to be on my periphery. It's not probably a game that I am going to be backing. It's not of personal interest because of those elements put together. But if you like it, or if you're looking for something different, especially with the Cthulhu, check it out. Pingyao, the first Chinese banks. I mentioned this last week in the upcoming ones as well. This one's flying under the radar as well. It's about 50% of its funding goal in day one. It's going over a month. And it's, like I said, it's an economic worker placement where you're trying to develop this city. this is the interesting thing with Euros. As I talked with Tinner's Trail, it's very well priced, and you have a very expensive Euro where the retail copy of this game with the stretch goals is the same price essentially as the expanded deluxe edition of Tinner's Trail, and that has a proven track record. So that is probably weighing in on people. $90 getting the expansion, that's a lot. That's a lot of money for an unproven Euro when you have things out there like Lorenzo or Underwater Cities that are, a third of that price potentially, especially on the secondary market. That's hard to compete with in a Euro sense. Like I said, there's an expansion. They compare it here to Lorenzo. They compare it here to Troyes. I don't know. I'm not a good Euro evaluator. So I think it bears the criticism of how does this compare to other Euros? And so if you're a Euro person, you should probably check out the rulebook. I can't necessarily give you as detailed a breakdown just because, again, this is not my forte. But the price point and for what you're getting right now, I just don't know. The expansion, yes, great for $90. It depends on what's going to be included in these stretch goals and what happens if they don't hit their funding very fast. How many stretch goals is that going to be, and will that make the $90 value significantly less? Time will tell. It's going to be up for a month. We'll kind of see how it unfolds. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that also they end up canceling and redoing because it's not necessarily jumping out of the gate as fast as they would like, or because maybe they don't hit like the 7 or 8 stretch goals that they want and you want to see what you can do in the future. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what happens with this campaign. Next up is Fallen Lands 2nd Edition, the big box and the Descents expansion. And so this is another post-apocalyptic, maybe that's the, maybe post-apocalyptic should literally and figuratively be the theme of 2021. We made it through 2020, right? Sandbox Adventure 1-6. I've had a couple of people comment online that this is a game that they missed the first time around and that they're really interested in picking it up now that it's back on Kickstarter. It's already funded on day one. The expansion's $40. The 2nd edition is $90, and it gets you the stretch goals in the 2nd edition, and the core with the expansion is going to be costing you almost $120. So, I mean, you can see just by the picture here on the game that it's an open sandbox United States map style game where you are trying to assemble your party, explore resources, get an agenda, build and manage your own settlements, and just sort of letting you do your own thing. Now, the thing that they're really emphasizing here is that this is a unique experience. 750 individual cards. You're not going to play the same game twice. You're going to build, you're going to settle, you're going to have 4 weeks to get deeds done and to be able to perform your actions of what you're going to do. I'm not terribly impressed with the art. It doesn't really drive me, but the fact that this is funding as well as it is on a day one means that there must be some gameplay there that people feel confident in and people like, because otherwise it just wouldn't be there in general. I did not know this one before launch day. This is not one that's been on my radar or that I was even aware of. So some people must be. So this is not my type of game. Sandboxy, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of faction information. You can see all of this stuff going on in this little animation. Too much for me personally. The style doesn't appeal to me, so I'm going to be easily passing. But it seems like one of those games that sort of has a cult following. Like if you've played it, if you've seen it, it's going to appeal to you, but I don't necessarily think it has the I'm going to pull me in as a new backer sort of thing, especially when it's going up against the things for me personally that it is going up against with the CMON animation collection, with Epic 7 that I talked about, with Primal coming next week. All of those other things are much more true to who I am and what I like and what's going to hit the table. And you can see that they've definitely done some upgrading, and this is the risk with Kickstarters in general, 1st edition versus 2nd edition. 2nd edition, you might pay a little bit more, but you're getting a much bigger box. You're getting, almost 50% more content, a bigger map, game trays, and a better version of the rules. And who doesn't always feel a little irked when the 2nd edition comes out and you've got the 1st edition that's not quite as good? I'm looking at you, Madara and Machina Arcana. All in all, if you like Sandbox, if you're a big fan of Xayah or those types of games, I think this is probably going to intrigue you and definitely pique your interest. This is one that reminds me of Xayah or Soul in the sense that I think it's going to be more of an indie, under-the-radar type game that's never going to get necessarily its credit or its due, but clearly it's got some good elements, some good components, and like they advertise at the top, you don't get a Board Game Geek rating of 8.3 no matter how big or how small you are if it's a bad game. So that has to be said. It's 23 more days. I think it's probably going to hit 3 or 4 times its funding goal by the end. The fact that they've put a first edition out means that you're relatively safe in terms of backing it and getting a product. So personally, again, I'm going to be passing on this, but this is something that I think, if this intrigues you at all, any of those elements I mentioned, it's probably worth checking out, and it's probably a relatively solid game. So I would be amiss about not talking about this, and this is the Dice Tower 2021 Kickstarter. It's not exactly a game, but it's going to run for 3 weeks almost, and it's going to raise a couple $100,000, and people are going to be super excited about getting all these promos for random games. I almost backed it last year. I am seriously tempted by it each year that it comes out. At the same time, me personally, for paying $50 or $100 to get 3/4 of promos that I'm never going to be able to use or try and sell or trade away, yes, you can make some money on selling some of these promos, because some of them are quite hard to get for some of the popular games, especially the Awaken Realm games and those ilk. But for me, again, I didn't get into this to resell stuff, and so I just can't justify it from that side of things. I'm going to be doing a whole video on this later about talking about paid promotion, and I'd be curious to what people think, just as a side tangent on this Kickstarter campaign, is, do you consider a Kickstarter campaign like this, where you've got these guys essentially selling promos that I'm assuming are being given to them? I don't know. It doesn't really talk about, are these companies that you see listed here, are they giving them? Are they selling them at a very cheap price to the Dice Tower, who are then selling them to everybody else? I don't really understand how this Kickstarter works. So if somebody can tell me in the comment section, I would love to understand what is the main mechanism by which these things happen in the background. It's just a weird situation the more I sat down and thought about it today. I mean, yes, they have a bunch of games that I would love, but it seems at the same time, when you've got these A, B, C, D, and E packets, there are 2, 3, or 4 in each of them that I wish I liked, and I can't help but think they are purposely divvied up that way, or they do not allow the picking of them in that sense. One, because it would be, honestly, it'd be a logistical mess, and how could you guarantee that people are going to get what they want? But two, to make people buy larger amounts so that they get more funding, and I can't blame them for that. But at the same time, as a consumer, I don't want to pay for promos, $50 for 3 promos that I'm going to get, and get a whole bunch of other ones that I'm not going to be able to do anything with. So personally, I would feel better backing a Patreon for something like this, rather than a Kickstarter that I'm going to be getting promos on, that really seems to drive more on the fear of missing out on the promos than anything else, alongside the supporting of the mecca of websites and reviewers in our industry. Regardless of how you think about them, that's what they are, than necessarily a Kickstarter like this, which seems more almost playing on the FOMO, sort of like conventions have in the past, where, you know, you can only get promos at conventions, and how is that feasible? This is a little more accessible, but it still is something that is tempting always, but I just have to pass on. So that is the Dice Tower. It's gonna do well. I wish them the best, but it's definitely not for me. Last but not least, the one you all have obviously been waiting for the whole video, it is CMON's The Animation Collection. Again, if you haven't heard about it or you haven't seen it yet, it is a combination of Scooby-Doo the board game, Teen Titans Go, and Looney Tunes. And this is heavily presented for more of a retail, family-friendly version of games using what is known as the Mayhem system. 2 of these 3 games are competitive, 1 of them is cooperative. Hopefully you'll be able to tell which one is which. However, if you're not familiar with the IP, obviously the Scooby-Doo is the cooperative game. Now, it's already raised over $200,000, which is nothing to sneeze at. However, it was off to a really rough start this afternoon. About an hour in, it only raised about $25,000, which was really interesting for a CMON campaign. It's sort of what the opposite they're used to. However, like I predicted, they actually went with the short campaign. They went with a campaign that is very similar to the comic book campaign, where they are doing daily unlocks. Now, the interesting thing that they did not hype about this campaign a lot beforehand is that you were getting what you see here. This is not a campaign where it's a bait and switch with the miniatures, where they're tempting you with the colored ones and the painted ones, and you're getting the gray ones. You are getting pre-painted miniatures, and that is the exclusive that they're offering during this campaign. I will say, though, on the initial thought, This was a lot more expensive than I was essentially predicting or thinking it would be. 1 to 5 players, Scooby-Doo, 30 minutes. You get, again, the pre-painted, you're getting the 3 monsters like they announced. There's a work in progress rulebook, and I've read that. I'll talk about that more on my full breakdown video of this, on about whether or not you should back it. And the Mayhem system, again here, as I mentioned, the Teen Titans Go with, again, 4 figures, and the Looney Tunes. And this is, you know, obviously, like I said, all family-friendly style, game, graphics, coloration. It's really hitting that hard, so that CMON is going to go after more of the retail market with this. They do all of the combination of things you can imagine in this sense. You can get Teen Titans or Looney Tunes. You can get just Scooby-Doo. Now, this is where I want to see what happens with the promos, because this is a $30 difference. What's going to justify the $30 difference there? You're saving $10 if you buy all of them. You're saving $10 here if you buy that combination. And you're saving $20 here with the complete collection if you buy all 3. Daily promos. Okay, another monster. Okay, great. Another monster there, another hero here, another hero, depending on how you want to look at Yosemite Sam. But it's only a 6-day campaign, so you can sort of start to tease out, this is probably Pepe Le Pew. This is, I have no idea. You've got some Teen Titans here. I don't know all of these, but it looks like this is the submarine guy, the guy with the underwater diving helmet. So you've got some recognizable stuff already from the get-go, just from the illustrations here. But it looks like you're going to get heavy villains on this side. I don't know what you're going to see on the Teen Titans side. I would imagine either variations, hopefully not variations, but hopefully just other alternative heroes or bad guys that are well known in the Teen Titans universe. All in all, again, that's about it. I was going to stay away from this, and I'll talk about this more, but I saw Eric Lang talking about this online on Twitter, and he really made me recheck this out with a few things that he commented and said. And I really think I'm probably going to be backing the Scooby-Doo game now, with the rules being read and the comparisons out there to what else the Scooby-Doo game can be compared to. So all in all, I mean, again, it's a CMON campaign, and you're going to have the exclusives in a different way this time. And I think this is a really interesting way, and I wonder if other people will adapt this. But all in all, it's not what I expected, but also in a positive way. We'll see actually what it ends up funding at the end of this. Will it get close to $1 million? I have absolutely no idea. Predictions are out the window with this one. So that's it for your Kickstarter roundup. I hope that was entertaining. I hope that was useful. Really some light material, but also a little bit of a deeper dive into each one of them individually. As I mentioned, I will be putting out videos on separate of at least a couple of these games, at least the CMON collection, at least Epic 7. You know I'm going to do a separate video for Primal when it launches next week. So a lot of Kickstarter content coming. Also later in this week, just my Kickstarter roundup review of upcoming Kickstarters of next week, as well as tidbits of board game news that have popped up throughout the week. So those are going to be together. If you like any of this, tell me what you're backing. Tell me what's caught your eye, or tell me why you're not backing things. So the other thing I'm going to be talking about is going to be doing a full video talking, at least one, on the paid side of our hobby and the content that goes along with that, as I mentioned and touched upon in the Dice Tower look today. As always, throw me a subscription. It's the best thing you can do. Leave me a comment as well. I want to create some dialogue on this stuff. I like talking about this stuff to the camera, but I like talking about it to people in person more, but online as a great secondary way, especially in these times. So thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for skimming through the video. Thank you for watching to the end if you made it here. Gray Ninja thanks you. So I'll see you around, and stay classy out there. Thanks.